Are you ready to uncover the biggest secrets of Stranger Things before anyone else? From shocking twists to mind-blowing theories, Season 5 is about to change everything. Hi everyone, welcome back to Lady Siou English. Today we're diving into the final season of one of Netflix's biggest shows ever. Whether you're a die-hard fan or just curious about all the buzz, this video has everything you need to know about Season 5. We'll explore the release dates, recap what happened last season, and discuss why this show became such a cultural phenomenon. And of course, after we cover all the fascinating details, we'll break down some useful English vocabulary and phrases that you can use in everyday conversations. So stick around, and let's get started. After more than 3 years of waiting, Stranger Things fans around the world are finally getting ready to return to the small town of Hawkins, Indiana. This isn't just any season though, it's the grand finale, the last chapter in a story that has captivated millions of viewers since it first premiered back in 2016. For those of you who might have forgotten what happened in the previous season, or for new viewers who want to jump in, let me walk you through everything you need to know. Let's start with the most important question: when can we actually watch it? Netflix is releasing Season 5 in 3 parts, which is quite unusual but builds up the excitement perfectly. The first 4 episodes dropped on November 27th at 1 a.m. UK time. Now, I know that's incredibly late for UK viewers, but there's a reason for this timing. Netflix wants to release the episodes simultaneously across the globe, so while British fans might be staying up past midnight, viewers in Los Angeles get to watch at a more reasonable 5 p.m. on Wednesday evening, and New Yorkers can tune in at 8 p.m. This global release strategy shows just how massive this show has become. It's truly a worldwide event. But here's the catch: after binge-watching those first 4 episodes, fans will need to exercise some patience. Episodes 5, 6, and 7 won't arrive until Boxing Day in the UK, which is December 26th. And then, the very final episode, titled The Right Side Up, will premiere on New Year's Day 2026. This means the entire Stranger Things saga will conclude right as we step into the new year. It's quite poetic, really, ending one story as we begin a new chapter in our own lives. Now, let's rewind a bit. What exactly happened at the end of Season 4? If your memory is a little fuzzy, don't worry. The plot of Stranger Things can get quite complex with all its supernatural elements and parallel dimensions. Season 4's finale was absolutely intense. The group of friends decided to split up in order to take down the main villain, Vecna. Through flashbacks and revelations, we discovered that 11, our main character with telekinetic powers, had actually sent a man named Henry Creel tumbling through different dimensions years ago when she was just a child at a research facility. Henry Creel's backstory is fascinating and terrifying at the same time. He gained supernatural powers after spending 12 hours in an alternative dimension. Unlike our heroes who use their powers for good, Henry became increasingly dark and troubled. When his family moved to Hawkins hoping for a fresh start, things only got worse. Henry spent his time isolated in the attic, surrounded by spiders, which should have been a red flag for everyone. During one particularly disastrous family dinner, Henry used his powers to kill his entire family. This caught the attention of Dr. Brenner, the scientist running experiments at Hawkins National Laboratory. Dr. Brenner took Henry in and labeled him 001 or simply 1, making him the very first test subject in a program that would eventually include 11 and other children with abilities. To control Henry's dangerous powers, Dr. Brenner implanted a chip in his neck, essentially suppressing what he could do. For years, Henry was forced to watch as Dr. Brenner brought in other children to experiment on, including a young girl who would become known as 11. Henry carefully observed everyone, biding his time and eventually befriending 11. He convinced her to help him remove the chip and regain his powers. But this act of trust backfired spectacularly. Once free, Henry's true intentions became clear, and a violent confrontation erupted between him and 11. Their battle was so powerful that it literally tore through the fabric of reality, sending Henry plummeting through dimensions. As he fell, his body burned and transformed, turning him into the monstrous creature known as Vecna. In Season 4, Vecna set his sights on returning to Hawkins by targeting various residents of the town, including 11's friend Max. The climax was heartbreaking. Vecna briefly killed Max, and while the other characters thought they had weakened the villain, it was actually 11's desperate intervention to bring Max back to life that gave Vecna the opening he needed. The barrier between the normal world and the upside down, that's the dark, twisted parallel dimension, was ripped wide open. The once peaceful fields of Hawkins began to wither, flowers died, the sky turned ominously black, and bright red lightning cracked across the horizon. It was an apocalyptic scene that set up the final confrontation we're about to witness in Season 5. But let's step back and talk about why Stranger Things became such a big deal in the first place. This is where we transition from pure plot summary to the broader cultural impact, the evergreen content that remains relevant long after the show ends. When Stranger Things first premiered in 2016, it was one of Netflix's earliest major successes in original programming. The streaming service was still establishing itself as a content creator rather than just a content distributor, and Stranger Things proved that Netflix could produce shows that rivaled traditional television networks. The numbers are absolutely staggering. According to Netflix's own statistics, Season 4 alone was viewed more than 140 million times, generating around 1.8 billion hours of viewing time. To put that in perspective, if one person watched all those hours continuously, it would take over 200,000 years. These figures demonstrate how streaming has changed our entertainment consumption. Unlike traditional TV where you had to wait week by week for new episodes, streaming allows for binge watching, consuming multiple episodes or entire seasons in one sitting. Stranger Things became a phenomenon partly because of this viewing format. People could immerse themselves completely in the story without interruption. The show also launched the careers of its young cast members into the stratosphere. Millie Bobby Brown was only 12 years old when she first appeared as 11 in 2016. Her portrayal of a girl with supernatural powers and a troubled past captivated audiences worldwide. Since then, she's become one of Hollywood's brightest young stars, appearing in blockbuster films like Godzilla and playing the lead role in the Enola Holmes series on Netflix, where she portrays Sherlock Holmes's teenage sister. Her journey from unknown child actor to international celebrity happened in less than a decade. That's the power of a hit streaming show. But Stranger Things didn't just create new stars. It also revitalized established careers. Winona Ryder, who plays Joyce Byers, the determined mother searching for her missing son in the first season, had been a major actress in the 1990s with films like Edward Scissorhands and Girl, interrupted. However, by the 2010s, her career had quieted down. Stranger Things brought her back into the spotlight, reminding audiences of her incredible talent and earning her new recognition, including Emmy nominations. Similarly, David Harbour's performance as Police Chief Jim Hopper transformed him from a character actor into a leading man, opening doors to major roles in Marvel films like Black Widow and the upcoming Thunderbolts. The show's success extended beyond the screen as well. It spawned a West End theatrical production called The First Shadow, which explores the backstory of some characters before the events of the series. Merchandise from Stranger Things, from t-shirts to action figures to replica props, generates millions in revenue. The show's 1980s setting, with its nostalgic references to that decade's music, fashion, and pop culture, sparked a broader retro trend in entertainment and fashion. Suddenly, everyone wanted to experience or re-experience the 80s aesthetic. This brings us to an important evergreen topic: why does nostalgia work so powerfully in entertainment? Stranger Things taps into something psychologists call nostalgia marketing. For viewers who grew up in the 1980s, the show brings back memories of their childhood, the music they listened to, the movies they watched, the way they played outside with friends before smartphones existed. For younger viewers who never experienced the 80s, the show offers a romanticized window into a seemingly simpler time. The Duffer Brothers, the show's creators, carefully recreated the look and feel of 80s cinema, drawing inspiration from directors like Steven Spielberg and John Carpenter. This attention to period detail makes the show feel authentic while also serving the story. The 80s setting isn't just decoration, it's integral to the plot, as the technology limitations of that era affect how characters communicate and solve problems. Another evergreen aspect worth discussing is how Stranger Things handles the challenge of child actors growing up. When a show features young protagonists, time becomes a complicated factor. The actors age in real life, but the show's timeline might not move as quickly. Stranger Things has addressed this by allowing its characters to grow older along with the actors. We've watched these kids transform from middle schoolers to teenagers to young adults over the course of 5 seasons spanning nearly a decade of real time. This creates a unique emotional connection. Audiences feel like they've grown up alongside these characters, which makes the final season even more poignant. We're not just saying goodbye to a TV show, we're saying goodbye to characters we've watched mature over years of our own lives. As we prepare for this final season, there's a bittersweet feeling in the air. We're excited to see how the story concludes, whether our favorite characters will survive, and how the battle against Vecna will ultimately play out. But we're also sad to say goodbye. Stranger Things has been a cultural touchstone for nearly a decade, a show that brought people together to discuss theories, share fan art, and bond over their love for these characters and this world. When the final episode airs on New Year's Day, it will mark the end of an era not just for the show, but for a particular moment in streaming history. So whether you're planning to stay up late to watch the first episodes or you'll wait until a more reasonable hour, whether you'll binge all the episodes at once or savor them slowly, Stranger Things Season 5 promises to be an emotional, thrilling conclusion to one of the most beloved series of the streaming age. The Upside Down is calling, Hawkins needs saving one last time, and we're all invited to witness how this incredible story ends. Now that we've covered all the exciting details about Stranger Things Season 5, let's switch gears and dive into the English learning portion of this video. I picked out some really useful vocabulary, phrases, and grammar structures from our discussion that you can apply in your everyday English conversations. Don't worry if you're at the beginner or intermediate level. I'll explain everything clearly and give you practical examples. Let's start with some key vocabulary words. The first word is captivate, which appeared when I mentioned how the show captivated millions of viewers. To captivate someone means to attract and hold their attention completely, almost like putting them under a spell. It's a stronger word than just interest. For example, you might say, the speaker captivated the audience with her inspiring story, or the beautiful sunset captivated everyone on the beach. In everyday conversation, when something captivates you, it means you're so interested that you can't look away or stop thinking about it. Another useful word is simultaneously, which we used when talking about Netflix releasing episodes at the same time globally. Simultaneously means happening at exactly the same time. This is a great word for describing coordinated events. For instance, the dancers moved simultaneously, creating a beautiful pattern, or the company launched its product simultaneously in 20 countries. The related adjective is simultaneous, as in a simultaneous release. This word is particularly useful in our modern, connected world where things often happen at the same time across different locations. Let's look at the word binge watch or binge watching. This is a relatively new term that perfectly captures modern viewing habits. To binge watch means to watch many episodes of a TV show one after another in a single sitting, usually on a streaming platform. The word binge traditionally meant doing something excessively in a short period, and when combined with watch, it describes this specific behavior. You might say, I binge-watched the entire season over the weekend, or binge-watching late at night always makes me tired the next day. It's a very common phrase now, especially when discussing streaming services like Netflix, Disney Plus, or Amazon Prime. Now let's talk about the phrase die-hard fan. I used this in the opening when I said, whether you're a die-hard fan or just curious. A die-hard fan is someone who is extremely loyal and passionate about something, whether it's a sports team, a TV show, a band, or anything else. The term die-hard suggests that this person's dedication is so strong that it would never die or disappear. For example, she's a die-hard fan of the Manchester United football team and never misses a match, or die-hard Star Wars fans have been waiting for the new series for years. When you call yourself a die-hard fan of something, you're saying your support is unwavering and enthusiastic. Let's examine the phrase cultural phenomenon. I mentioned that Stranger Things became a cultural phenomenon. A phenomenon is something remarkable or extraordinary, and when we add cultural, we're talking about something that significantly impacts society and popular culture. A cultural phenomenon is so popular and influential that it affects how people talk, dress, or think. Other examples include the Harry Potter series, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, or K-pop music spreading globally. You might say, the rise of social media influencers has become a cultural phenomenon, or that viral dance became a cultural phenomenon, with people performing it everywhere. Now, let's look at some grammar structures. One pattern I used frequently is the present perfect tense, particularly when discussing how long fans have been waiting. I said, it's been over 3 years since Stranger Things fans' last visit to Hawkins. The present perfect with has been or have been is perfect for describing situations that started in the past and continue to the present moment, often emphasizing the duration. The structure is, it has been plus a time period plus since plus the past event. For example, it's been 5 months since I started learning English, or it's been 2 years since we moved to this city. This structure helps you connect past events to the present smoothly. Another useful structure is not just, but also, which creates emphasis by showing two related ideas. I said, this isn't just any season though, it's the grand finale. This pattern, often expressed as not just X but also Y, adds information while emphasizing the second part. More examples: she's not just a talented singer but also an excellent songwriter, or learning English is not just about grammar but also about understanding culture. You can also say not only, but also, which means exactly the same thing. This structure is particularly useful in formal writing and presentations when you want to build your argument or add important information. Let's discuss the phrase set the stage for, or set up, which I used when describing how Season 4's ending set up the final confrontation. These phrases mean to create the conditions or circumstances for something to happen, like preparing a stage before a performance. You're making arrangements so that something else can occur. For example, the peace negotiations set the stage for a lasting agreement, or her excellent grades in high school set her up for success in university. In everyday conversation, you might say, that introduction really set the stage for a great discussion, or their early investment set them up for financial security. Another common pattern in English is using quite as an intensifier, which I did several times. For instance, it's quite unusual or quite complex. The word quite can mean two slightly different things depending on context and how you stress it. It can mean very or completely in British English, or it can mean fairly or rather, showing a moderate degree. When I said the plot is quite complex, I meant it's rather complex, moderately complicated. But when I said quite poetic, I was emphasizing how very poetic it was. This dual meaning can be confusing, but with practice, you'll understand from context which meaning is intended. Try using it in sentences like, the movie was quite interesting, or that's quite a difficult question. Let's examine descriptive phrases that create vivid images. I used the phrase apocalyptic scene to describe the end of Season 4. The word apocalyptic comes from apocalypse, which means a catastrophic end or total destruction, often with religious connotations. When describing something as apocalyptic, you're emphasizing its dramatic, end-of-the-world quality. You might hear people say, the traffic was apocalyptic, using it slightly exaggeratedly to describe terrible traffic, or the damage from the storm created an apocalyptic landscape. This is a powerful adjective that immediately conveys drama and severity. I also used the phrase sparked a broader trend, referring to how Stranger Things influenced fashion and entertainment. To spark something means to cause it to start or ignite it, like how a spark starts a fire. When you spark a trend, conversation, debate, or interest, you're initiating it. For example, her innovative design sparked a conversation about sustainable fashion, or the documentary sparked renewed interest in environmental protection. This is a dynamic verb that suggests energy and initiation, much more vivid than simply saying started or caused. Let's talk about the expression bide one's time, which I used when describing how Henry waited patiently at the laboratory. To bide your time means to wait patiently for the right moment to act, often while appearing to do nothing. It suggests strategic patience. For example, he bided his time, waiting for the perfect opportunity to start his business, or the team was biding their time, waiting for their opponents to make a mistake. This phrase is quite formal and literary, perfect for storytelling or describing strategic behavior. Another useful phrase is stick around, which I used in the opening, so stick around, and let's get started. This casual phrase means to stay in a place or to remain and not leave. It's informal and friendly, often used when inviting someone to stay for something interesting. For instance, stick around after the meeting, I'd like to discuss something with you, or the party's just getting started, so stick around. You can also use it to mean persevering through difficulties. He stuck around through all the company's tough times. Let's examine the phrase walk you through, which I used when saying, let me walk you through everything you need to know. To walk someone through something means to guide them step by step through a process or explanation, like accompanying them on a walk through a topic. It's very common in teaching, training, and customer service. Examples include, the technician walked me through the installation process, or, could you walk me through how you solved this problem? It's a friendly, supportive way of saying you'll explain something carefully and completely. Finally, let's look at the structure, not just, it's also. For contrast and addition. I used variations of this throughout to show different aspects of the same topic. This pattern helps you present multiple layers of information clearly. For example, this restaurant is not just about food, it's also about the dining experience, or the program doesn't just teach vocabulary, it also focuses on practical conversation skills. This structure makes your English sound more sophisticated and allows you to present complex ideas in an organized way. These vocabulary words, phrases, and grammar patterns aren't just useful for discussing TV shows, they apply to countless everyday situations. Practice using them in your own conversations, writing, or even just thinking in English. The more you use these expressions, the more natural they'll become, and you'll find your English becoming more fluent and expressive. So that's everything you need to know about Stranger Things Season 5, and a few useful English expressions you can start using right away. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like it and subscribe to Lady Siou English for more content that blends real-world topics with practical English learning. Tell me in the comments, are you excited for the new season? And what topics would you like me to cover next? Thanks for watching, and keep learning, every small step brings you closer to fluency. See you in the next video.